Hello, I'm Derek Terry, host of I'm Not Complaining, I'm Just Saying. Here at one of my favorite spots, the barbershop, where we know if you're gonna complain here, then you better provide solutions.
Good.
It's good. I firmly believe when we make other people's problems part of our conversations without providing solutions or prayer, then we become part of the problem. I want to be able to provide people with a platform where they can freely express their views on such topics as education, social issues, health and fitness. Now that's good. Or sports. So please join me so we can complain and provide solutions together. Hey, what's going on, peeps? This is your man, Derek Terry, host of I'm Not Complaining, I'm Just Saying, where if you're going to complain, bring some solutions to the table. Welcome to Season 7, Episode 12, and my special guest as part of my voter education series is Deron Tross, who is running for Board of Education District 3, which happens to be my district. So I'm looking forward to this interview. But before we start, I want to put out the disclaimer. Any views I express are my views, not the views of my guests or anybody else. They're my views. Also, I sent out an email to every registered Board of Education and commissioner candidate. Some have taken me up on the free offer. Some have not, for whatever reason. It is what it is. But what I will say is I will have a special episode where I will be breaking down each candidate, not necessarily all the way through, but just giving you my opinion. But at the end of the day, it's up to you, the voter, to go out there and educate yourself. For those who see this, it's Towson, is where I went. I just want to say congratulations to my goddaughter, who's going to be getting her master's Thursday. I will be there representing Towson. So with that, we're going to bring in Deron Tross, and just give me a second. You know, we're dealing with technology. Technology. So we'll see if he's on yet. If not, then we'll take a break. So let's see if he's on. All right, he might not be back yet. So we will be right back. Come on. All right, welcome Deron. Welcome Deron Tross. Once again, he's running for Charles County Board of Education District 3. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for the invite, and ready for some good dialogue.
All right, definitely appreciate it. So before we start, can you tell us about Deron Tross, the person? Not the candidate, but Deron Tross, the person.
Well, Deron Tross, the person, you know, it's on my website. I am a special needs student. I'm dyslexic, and I have a 504. I went to, you know, I was diagnosed when I was in 11th grade with a special need. And from there, the light bulb went on. The fortunate thing that, you know, I had two parents that were educators that advocated for me. So I was able to, you know, still have some obstacles that I deal with on a daily basis. But as a whole, that's who I am. And Deron Tross as a whole, what you see is what you get. A lot of folks don't like the way I present what I have to say. I don't believe, and then you and I, we've had some discussions. I just don't believe it. If it's something that I truly believe in, I'm going to tell you what I believe in, and that's who I am as a whole.
Okay, I can definitely relate to that. Like Deron had mentioned, you know, I always say at the end of the day, agree to disagree. I don't agree with anybody 100%, including my wife. So I said the day that you agree with everybody is the day that I question, okay, something's wrong. But what I find fascinating about all the candidates I've interviewed, there's always some similarities there, or something that I can relate to. I was a special educator for 18 years, so I'm very familiar, you know, with your diagnosis, but also just the passion and really the interest that you would have in it because of that. And I'm one of those ones, what you see is what you get. People might not always like it, but I was gonna tell you, and we can just shoot the breeze afterwards. So with that, we're gonna go ahead and get into it. So running for Charles County Board of Education District 3. One of the questions that I have, and we're just gonna start with special ed. What are some of the pluses you see with how special ed is run in Charles County, and what are some of the things that you would like to see improved, and how would you improve it?
Well, one, I think the IEP situation needs to be improved. We have students in this county right now, IEPs are not being followed through the letter of the law. I'm gonna take you back. I have a son that graduated from Charles County Public Schools. And the reason I got involved in my advocacy, because his IEP was not being followed. I had to hire an attorney in order to fight and advocate for my son's rights. And that was under the previous administration. I have attended countless of IEP with parents in the community that have asked me to come with them in order to make sure that the I's were dotted, the T's were crossed. Matter of fact, 3 weeks ago, I attended one as well. So there's a lot of inconsistencies in the interpretation on how the schools are enforcing it.
Yeah, and for those that are never heard the term IEP, there's individual education program, not plan, although some people call it a plan to program. And I can definitely relate to that because Evercare, what I do with one of my organizations is I'm a special ed advocate, and it's unfortunate that one would have to go in to assist the parent where the school system should be doing that, because a lot of times the parents don't understand the IEPs and as well as the process. So I want to bring up your
from a communication standpoint, I think the school system should do a better job of communicating what you just explained, the IEP program. A lot of folks in the community thinks having an IEP or 504 is a dirty, it's negative. It's not. It's there to help your child to succeed.
Yeah, and I definitely agree. I definitely agree with that. So I want to touch on 4 pillars of your platform. We're going to start with equity. So within your equity, platform, you want to work collaboratively to find solutions, promote a school system that represents everyone. So within Charles County, what specifics are you concerned with in regards to equity or their lack of equity?
But for one, CTE programs. The majority of the CTE programs are at North Point, which is located in my district. I think the same CTE programs should be in all the schools. If a child wants to take coding, it should be over at Thomas Stone. I don't think it should be in one particular school. Now, you have, from an equity standpoint, I'm gonna pull this out, the sporting programs. This past year, you're a sports official. Thomas Stone had a total of 7 girls they started the season off with, and they finished the season off with 5. Those young ladies played hard. However, you go to North Point, they have a freshman, JV, and a varsity, bench is 15 deep. Why is that? But at the same time, you have the coaches, they were cut players off the team when some of those players can be at Thomas Stone or whatever, or Westlake, and involved in the same programs.
Yeah, so basically what you're saying is a student shouldn't be denied an opportunity to participate in extracurricular activities if the other schools are lacking in participants.
Correct. Okay. I think it's, and I'm not going to call any names out. I know there are kids that are involved in, I had a kid from Thomas Stone. He was in a welding program. He was told to enroll in the welding program so he can get into the program over at North Point. He decided in sophomore year that's something he wanted to do, so he had to go back to his home school. Now the same young man is going into an engineering program. He's going to North Carolina A&T with a 4.0 GPA. I'm sorry. So that's the inequities that we're talking about.
So if the because it's not going to be a quick fix. So if the opportunity to either expand the program or allow other students to go to these schools, like they do in Fairfax. Fairfax has transportation set up where they can go. And I know right now we're in between the crossroads when it comes to bus drivers. But how do we make it equitable for the students to get there if the transportation is going to be an issue, say with busing or what?
Well, if a kid is zoned for a Thomas Stone and they have that coding program and the kid's playing sport, the kid is going to go to school there. The kid should not have to go all the way from Thomas Stone or even from the district as far as Hughesville all the way into to North Point. Therefore, the transportation issue wouldn't even be an issue. You can save costs on that. You can save money on that.
Okay, and as we talk about money, I'm going to jump to your fiscal responsibility, where you want to promote the alignment of spending decisions with the goal of improving the school support our staff, providing positive learning experience for our scholars. So before we get into that, when we talk about getting students to and from, and we're also talking about these programs, teacher recruitment as well as teacher retainment, in a nutshell, teacher shortage is going to be an issue when trying to staff these programs at these schools. How do you address that and then be able to still stay fiscally responsible?
Well, Derek, from a recruiting standpoint, I did my part this past year. My daughter got into the North Point program. She decided during the summer she didn't want to get into the program, so she decided to go to home school. She went over to Westlake and she finished, top 10 of her class. Not only that, she was the leader of the TAM program. She went over to Salisbury. She graduated with honors this past weekend, and she did great. She's coming back to Charles County to teach school. Not only that, the past administration did not do a great job of recruiting our own. These kids, they would be at my house in my backyard. I have helped 7 students, Charles County graduates, that are coming back here. And I'll say, yes, I helped recruit those kids back into the county. And the past administration did not do a great job. Matter of fact, they lost that group of TAM students that my daughter was a part of. It wasn't through conversations with the current superintendent that we had that she knew about her, and asked me about her. And I said, hey, it's her decision. And from that standpoint, I would love, my kid to come back into the county that she, grew up in, she graduated from, and she made a positive impact. But there's a total of 7 students that I helped recruit to come back to Charles County. So I think, we can recruit our own, take our home base, nurture them so they're not leaving. That'd be better. You taught in this county and left. And, for whatever, we've spoken, personally why you left. It's a shame that, you couldn't work and live in the county that you live in.
For me, I left because I'm not going to say it was racism, but I would say it's really maybe sexism. I don't know. But as a special educator who's taught in a lot of school districts, starting out in Baltimore City, I've been able to gain a lot of knowledge in the things that actually work in these variety of different school systems. And when I tried to bring that here or bring it up, I got shut down, not necessarily from my school, but from the SPED office. Things as simple as, hey, instead of me using this funding for supplies, can I use it for IXL that they were already using, which is really a research base. So that was my reason. But I think the county as a whole has a problem with when these kids graduate, just coming back, period. They don't want to come back.
It's and I don't want to hop on the last administration. The last administration, from a standpoint, they were very heavy-handed. They didn't allow the principals to make decisions. And we all know that. I have some personal relationships with some principals who were under the last administration. I'm not going to call their names, but they'll tell you that. With this new administration, they have been given more autonomy to run the school, their particular building, the way they want. Once before in the last administration, if you buck back, the hatchet lady, we know who that was, that you basically, you were blackballed.
Well, I think they've always had what we call in education, called site-based management,
Mhm.
but the last administration was selective on who they allowed to really utilize that site-based management. Either you have it or you don't, and they may have been picking and choosing, which kind of, now, before I get to the transparency, because that really touches on what you're talking about with the previous administration, maybe administrations before that. I'm sorry, before we get to transparency, with the fiscal responsibility, and I think we've spoken about this, what is specific that you would like to see changed when it comes to fiscal responsibility? And especially when they're submitting these budgets each year, which happen to be larger every year.
They need to be honest. Well, first of all, we don't have any charter form government. We're not going to go through that. Okay. We know some folks like it, some folks don't. The school board, Board of Education, Sheriff's Office, and they all keep their money. Yeah. They all keep their money.
Not only person who keeps it is the Board of Ed. Sheriff's Department, they don't keep it. The Board of Ed is the only one that's allowed to have a reserve.
Oh, okay, that's another conversation for another day. But you had the last, and I have the YouTube clip. You had Kim Hill said in a public meeting that they had $20 million in reserve. $20 million.
Yeah,
about that. Just
about that. Yeah,
that is not transparency. If I get it, you have the money. Just let the public know you have the money, what you're using it for. Whether you're going to use it to incentivize bus drivers, teachers, or whatever. We have teachers that are spending their own monies on just basic equipment. I went to a meeting 2 years ago and said, hey, why not give each teacher $125 stipend out of that $20 million? From a transparency thing, and $125 each teacher, it's not a lot, but when they go into their own pockets for supplies, we shouldn't have that.
Yeah, and why not use that $20 million to at least bring back the activity buses so the kids
we have, we have all that from a transparency. You go and speak to the board. The board just sit there with their arms folded, don't say anything. When you and I met, that was maybe 7 years ago, we probably knew each other in passing. We had a situation here where there were 56 kids that were sexually assaulted. To this day, we haven't had the board say one word. One word. The superintendent come out with a statement, but no board member has said anything. Now, you and I know both some of those kids in the community. Now, if you dig deep down, 62% of kids that are sexually assaulted become the abuser. So these kids are now, they're grown. Some have graduated, some have not. Some will be graduating next year, the last half of them. So from a transparency thing, we need to talk about this. It's a shame. We talk about, we say that, I'm not going to say it's racist, but, we have over 70% of our kids in this community are African-American or of color. So this is the society that we're dealing with. From a transparency thing, we need to put it out. From a transparency thing, you have, it came up in my memories on social media. Van Dyke, when the former leader was the principal over at North Point, she didn't think his situation rose to the effect of being criminal. Come on, you have a principal going to take and destroy the tape, the evidence. That all came out in the grand jury. But from a transparency thing, we need to let the public know what's going on.
Yeah, and I think in this day and age, there's simply no excuse not to be transparent. Although we should be transparent, when back in the day, usually if something happened, it stayed in the school because there was no social media, unless the newspaper came there and right. But now, flick of a send. You can either put out something that may be opinion, maybe a fact, maybe a rumor, whatever it may be. But, and I agree with your transparency because and although we approach it differently, when I need to know something, I'm going to address the board. I'm going to email the board and I'm going to get an answer. I've always got an answer. Man, about the answer, I want it, but I always got the answer. but I shouldn't have had to do that. Meaning that if I'm addressing it, eventually the general public's going to address it. And you did mention, when you mentioned the case that happened that started a couple of years ago, I think what kind of pissed me off was, wait a minute, you have a meeting or a town hall, whatever it was.
I was there, asked the first question.
And nobody from the board nor the superintendent was there to speak.
They had to allow the principal, who they removed later on, face the noise. Then they brought in, Mr. Marvin Jones to clean up. We can go down. I mean, started since I've been here. Started has probably had about, it's been a revolving door. You've had about 4 to 5 different principals over there.
So if you're elected on the board, what is it that you would like to see different in terms of transparency?
The board doing these settings, get back with the community, whether it be through the attorney, and give a statement. From a transparency, I will have monthly meetings within my district with the public to let them know what's going on. Although we're running by district, so if you have a parent from district 1, 2, 3, or 4 have a question and I know the answer, I'm going to give them the answer. I tell them what I know, what's going on. So I don't believe there should be any secrets. We had recently, I approached the board where there was an issue with over $250,000 from a tax standpoint. The public didn't know about it. I just happened to be looking for some information, and I work for an information research company, and that's all I do all day, just dig for information, and found out. And then the superintendent did later put out a statement. The board, I went to the board meeting, the board still didn't say anything. Matter of fact, 2 days before that, I approached a board member who didn't even know anything about it. So these are the type of things we talk about transparency. The board, $250,000 it's a lot of money. You can hire a lot of teachers with that. You can do a lot of things with that. So it's from a transparency, those are the type of things that the public needs to know.
And I think when you have the transparency, and to some degree, I may even answer my own question or part of it, you thus strengthen community engagement. But what are some things in terms of community engagement that you would like to implement or like to see, if you're elected?
One of the famous things in the old administration, and it probably is going to be with this administration, they tout the graduation rate. They're real proud about that. Over almost 95% of the students that they graduate. Right now, which is not transparent. You have a reading diagnostic we call I-rating. This fall of the 21-22, you had 23% of the students pass the test. A whopping 77% didn't. When you came down to the winter, only 33% passed the test, and 67% of them didn't pass the test. Now, this came from a meeting that the superintendent had with the public. It wasn't open to all. That information, everyone should know. Everyone should know. But we're going to sit and we're going to tout our graduation rate. But also on the same thing from a mathematics standpoint, only 8% in the fall passed the mathematics examination. 91 didn't pass it. Then you go back to the winter, 22% pass it, and then 78% didn't pass, didn't pass the bar. So these are the type of things that the public needs to know about our system. I think our system is in crisis. Now, but we're graduating.
I'm sorry.
We're graduating these kids. We are graduating, 95% or whatever the percent is. But these kids are, whether they go on to trade school or whether they go on to college or wherever they are, they're taking remedial courses.
Yeah, and for me, I'm personally not a big fan of standardized tests because a lot of times you teach to the test. What happens when students don't pass these tests? They get to do a project, and I found out actually some of my students learn better with that project. But you have to fail the test in order to do the project.
I was one of those students. I am one of those students. But the key is the key word. They have to fail the test.
Yeah, you have to fail it, and then there's also another point. Yeah, you have 90% graduating, but out of the 95%, and you mentioned remedial courses. How many or academically ready to go to college.
That's true too. You know, we have a dual enrollment program with CSM. I think when they rolled that out, it wasn't done right. You know, we always say if you want to hide something, hide it in a book. There should have been a billboard. You know, I'm just using that on 301 to let these parents know about this dual enrollment program. You have a certain segment of students that parents know about it, students and parents that know about it, and a certain segment that don't know about it. We need to do a better job of engaging the community. You know, we had, and I'm just, you know, I'm not picking on Dr. Navarro. She came into the community, she met with the community. I think she did a great job. But what now? The board is not communicating with us. What now? We only hear from the superintendent when there's something bad. A letter goes out, principal will send out. We don't, the good things, you know, other than graduation, we need to hear some other things. We got some students in here that are doing great things. Now, a lot of folks want to focus on the 4 to 5% of the folks that are doing, you know, some bad things. But there's a lot of students doing some great things in this community.
Yeah, and I think the other thing to look at, you know, especially when you talk about the community engagement, you know, I haven't met Dr. Navarro personally. You know, I've said hello, but I haven't had a conversation. I will at some point. I just haven't had time. But the one thing that I will say is that she seems to be a little bit more proactive.
Yes.
And it's not a knock against her or anything like that. So I do at this point like what I see, but what I did not like, you know, especially from the last administrations and administrations before that, is you talked about this graduation rate, and I used to always say, I was like, okay, are we into the numbers? Are we into, we're more into the quantitative than the qualitative, because what good is graduating if you don't even know what you graduated to?
You know, Derek, you can go back and we talk about superintendents, and you know, I'm a data guy. You know, Dr. Navarro is the first superintendent that wasn't homegrown.
Yeah, I do recall that. Yeah.
The first.
Now you bring in new innovative ideas.
Bringing new inventive ideas. She's the first. So basically, and this is not nothing bad against the other ones. It's been a total recycle. We've been recycling. You know, you got Calvert now that went out. After Calvert has went out a couple of times. St. Mary's that went out, and they got African-American male and woman, male and female. They went out to bring in some new ideas. So this is the first time that Charles County has done something like this.
And I think that you mentioned the dual enrollment, because I want to say it was Dr. Godfrey, who was president of CSM.
Correct.
And I think
no, not Godfrey.
No, I'm talking about at the time that
okay.
Yeah, I remember having, when he had came and I was running for board, and I was shocked that they didn't have dual enrollment at that time, because I was used to Baltimore County having it, Baltimore City having it, and they had been trying to have this partnership with the school system. And you talk about those innovative ideas. I don't think he was from this area, but everybody was on the board from this area, homegrown, and been living in this bubble. And I'm not going to say it set us back, but we're kind of behind when it comes to other school systems in terms of technology, information management, just basic things. You know, the IB program. We don't even have an IB program here. International
Baccalaureate program. My oldest son graduated from that program in Fairfax. We don't have that here. You know, we have.
So my thing is, when I hear a lot of people tout, man, this is, you know, it's one of the best schools. Like, yeah, it's good, but if you don't have an IB program, you know, it's like, to me, I would personally take the IB versus the AP, because
I would too. You know, as I said, my son graduated from the program over at Thomas Edison High School in Fairfax. So it's a great program. My oldest son.
So another question in regards to community engagement, and it kind of touches on the school resource officers. I'm you know, I don't bite my tongue. I'm a strong supporter of the SROs, only because it's another piece of community engagement. And then you have some that are reluctant. I know this is gonna come back up. Probably during the next, it's gonna come back up is whether or not we should keep the SROs or not. Now, you don't have to tell me your stance or anything like that, but I just want to know that, and when in terms of school safety, what are some things that you see that have improved and things we can improve on?
Unequivocally, I am not for removing, this is my statement, for removing RSOs out of the school building, period, the end.
Okay.
What I do think what needs to happen, and I'm not a police officer, I'm not a security guard or whatever. I don't mean to minimize what they do. The MOU probably needs to be looked at. Better training that needs, we can do that. From a security standpoint, we need to, from a training standpoint, we need to get more actively involved and let them do their jobs, not, do a lot of different things. Their jobs is the community. Their jobs is going beyond a little bit further. And I understand you have to engage the students, but some of the things that they're doing in the schools is not what they were intent to do. Now, I've heard a lot of folks, I've listened to some of your podcasts, take them out. Well, first of all, that's a donation to the school. That is in our current Sheriff Troy Berry's budget. Technically, he can take his ball and go home with it right now.
Yeah.
Technically. So it is not up to the board to decide what they're going to do with that money. It comes out of his budget. So again, we need to do a better job with the MOU, training, get with the sheriff and say, hey, can we do some other training? Probably look at some other training programs and do that. What also I think we need to do with the situation over at La Plata here last week. I got 6 cameras at my house, and not including the Ring camera. The quality is a lot better. We pumped in almost $500 million in this coming budget. I think we need to upgrade our equipment.
Yeah, I would think. I'm sitting there because I was like, is that the only camera they had? I'm saying my Vivid camera, it gives me more, it's clearer than that. I catch somebody a good ways.
Hey, by the way, there was a rumor floating around the community that it was me that raised the flag.
By yourself, okay.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I don't live in La Plata. Second of all, I wouldn't have left my house that late at night. And the last thing, I wouldn't desecrate a U.S. flagpole. I used to say with the United States Army Honor Guard team at Florida National Cemetery. So, to desecrate that flagpole was ridiculous anyway. But, I think even at night, I get better photos out of the 6 cameras, not including my Ring camera up front is great. But I think we need to invest in equipment. I'm gonna touch on another thing. I work in IT. We have students that have these we paid a lot of money for these and got grants for these laptops. Students are in the building, going to IG, Twitter, right in the building. I couple months before Kim Hill left, and I had a conversation with the Miss Katie O'Malley, who was the communication director. We had a hole in our system. I was able to get into the grades system and look at grades. I didn't have a kid in the system. So those are the type of things. And if I wanted to, I'd probably get into it right now. Take me about 5 minutes.
And tell you the truth, I think there's a way to, because I know, like, when I go to a football game, certain stadiums, I cannot access Facebook. I don't know if they cut it. It's something they do in the stadium. So whatever their technology they're using to, I guess, put a temporary freeze on looking at some of the social media sites, probably can be done at the school level as well.
Derek, I can go right into a school right now and go into the system in the back door and do it myself. I have the equipment from the machine that we're talking on, that I'm talking in the Zoom. I work for a cyber company. I have the way I can go in and do it right now. So I do know there's a way that the IT department down the radio station road can do it.
Okay. Well, maybe I don't know what their staffing looks like or their level of expertise. Maybe that's a problem, or who knows? But That is a viable solution that they could definitely do.
We're talking a 4 or 5 minute process. It's not that hard.
Okay. So the last thing I want to talk about, there, and me and you had the discussion, I've interviewed a lot of candidates, and I'll be the first to say that, no, I haven't read the Maryland Blueprint in its entirety, but I know enough to know that, like anything that comes through as far as education, it's always a temporary fix. It's never permanent because the money's going to dry out. What is it about the Maryland Blueprint? And I'm saying there's a lot in there, but what specifics should residents be aware of when it comes to the Maryland Blueprint?
Well, if anyone has read it and you read it, and you're talking about the resources drying up, it's only a 3 to 5 year plan. What's happening every year, the money from the state goes to a different level and it's being pushed back on the counties. So I hear a lot of folks saying, well, they raise our taxes, they raise our taxes. But guess what? With this Maryland Blueprint, your taxes are going to go up even more. So I think it's incumbent of what the board and the commissioners working together. Now, I said something in a debate. Prince George County has a program, public and private development for schools. Now, if you go into Prince George's County right now and a developer wants to come in there to build a development, that developer has to build a school. And typically it takes anywhere from 5 to 7 years for a school to be built. With the new program that they're having, it takes 3 years. And if the school is not built, guess what happens? The developer has to pay fines. So it takes the burdens off of the taxpayers. So at some point, the rubber is going to have to meet the mat. How are we going to continue to fund these programs in the particular, the blueprint? And I totally think it's needed. But from a finance standpoint, it's going to cause a problem. You have to pay teachers a certain percentage amount, and each year it's the cost is going to go up. And I think that's where we're going to have to figure this out. Now, I've listened to your 2 or 3. I didn't list all of them. And we talk about the blueprint. I have I call it my Bible. This is the highlights piece of it that I have. I always keep it in front of me. And in fact, I even got it down. There's an app that you can download it on your phone because I'm always reading through it. But I totally 100% support the blueprint. You're on mute. You're on mute. You're on mute.
There you go. Got the guest telling the host he's on mute.
It happens.
So that's fine. But one of the things that I found to be, I guess, interesting when we talk about the Maryland Blueprint, and as I listened to some of the commissioner candidates, and I think maybe 1 or 2 of the board candidates, and you have fiscal responsibility, but then they talk about, sustainability. Can our current budget sustain the rising cost without raising taxes? And the blueprint, what people understand is we're required because I have to read the entirety, but the state's gonna say, look, this is how much money we're giving you. You got to front this much. And if you don't front it, you can't get a loan from us.
You are 100%, and you may not have read it, you're 100%, and that is stated on page 27 of the blueprint. It's a law. The counties they have to fund it.
So the question, and I know it's not within the preview of the board when it comes to budget, but there's gonna be some hard decisions.
Correct.
When it comes to what things need to be budgeted and need to be paid for, where there may be some cuts in certain things. But what I need for people to understand is that if you're going to rely on property taxes, something is going to have to give, meaning that money's going to have to come from somewhere. And I will say, and it's rare, on behalf of the commissioners, to have a daunting task, difficult, because this is the law. And that money has to come from somewhere. If it's
Derek,
not gonna come from property taxes.
it's often you hear in the past, especially union, fully fund the budget. I've been running around here since 2005. The commission's always funded the budget, 100%. Some ask questions, and when you ask a question, it's misconstrued that you're not for fully funding the budget. That is not one time since I've been here that a sitting commission has voted against the budget. They've always funded the budget. Now they've used different funding mechanisms to fund it, through staff, but they've always funded the budget. But as you stated earlier, there's going to have to be some tough decisions going to have to be made. We talk about bringing the activity bus. There's different things that we can do. Grants. This past year, what's getting ready to leave right now, where each student received free lunch. That was through a grant through the USDA. That was written, but there's a whole lot of grants out there. Say, for instance, when we talked about that $250,000, that was from a grant that they didn't do the right thing with. So from a tax standpoint, the federal government had a lien on us. So,
it had to be paid.
There's no reason that grant money is sitting there and you're not using it. You had this past year, the commissioners took some grant monies for COVID funds and gave it to the school system. It shouldn't sit there. It should be used. There's no reason. I understand you have to have a rainy day fund balance, but as we go back, there was $20 million sitting there, but you had the superintendent and the other folks saying that the commissioners are not fully funding the budget. If they didn't fully fund the budget, where you get the extra $20 million from?
Now, actually, that probably wasn't my last question. So, because you had mentioned something interesting when we talk about, the hard decisions, just like, if you're elected, the board's going to have to make these hard decisions. And a lot of that, those negotiations, those conversations are going to be with the Teachers Association, where they fully expect, they can expect what they want, don't mean they're going to get it, but where they will expect certain things. And a lot of that deals with salaries, but it's difficult to give someone what you don't have. From a state can, but then if we don't have the money, because I don't know any government agency that has ever said, hey, we'll take less money this year. We'll help out. We'll be a team player. I don't know any.
Hey, I don't know any myself. Derek, I think I told you I had, two parents that were educators. I don't think the last year my dad, I don't think, he was a father. He was up the hierarchy. He was an assistant superintendent of services in all these parish public school system when he retired. I don't think he made 100K as an assistant superintendent. I know for a fact. I don't think he made over 80K. My mom, who was a principal at the time, I know for a fact she didn't make over 100K. But we survive. Teachers, it's a noble job. If you from the South, what I know: a teacher, police officer, a nurse. Those were honorable jobs. Those were the jobs that we could work at the time. And here I have, Jesus Christ. On one side of my family, I got 7 teachers. I ain't even go to the other side. They're all educators. I got 3 nieces and a sister. Get ready to have a daughter that are educators. I do believe teachers are underpaid and they're undervalued. And I think, they're teaching the test, as we talked about. We need to get back teaching our kids what they need to know. And I think, I know it's a lot that's not being done right now. Teachers are taking planning periods. They have to do this and do different things. I mean, let's not, my first teacher that I fell in love with, and she's still living, Beverly Thompson, that lady poured into me. I would not be who I am right now. And I had 2 parents that were educators. She taught me a lot. So I think, they should be paid their worth. And then, just like any other profession, we got some bad actors, let's be honest. But we need to train them properly. By training them, you're equipping them to do their jobs. Those are some things that are going on. From, we talk about a security standpoint. I think from a background check, we need to strengthen that. We have to see something, say something. I may be saying it incorrectly. I reported something that, when we had this last situation at North Point with the assistant coach, I brought it to their attention. Say, hey, it's out there. I understand you can't use Google to do a background check, but the information was there. There's no reason that, when we talk about strengthening the system, that we should be able to strengthen the system. And so that's the problem. Our teachers, I think, just like our police officers, those are the most dedicated people that we have. And there's no reason that we're letting one bad actor or two bad actors slip through the cracks. There should be no bad actors coming in there to mess with our babies.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. But unfortunately, with anything, you never really know everybody and everything about them until you find out.
Just unfortunately,
some people can hide it well until they're caught.
Unfortunately, it's been happening quite too often here in Charles County. Yeah, that's just my personal opinion.
Okay. All right. Well, that about closes out. But before I give you an opportunity to, speak with the audience, I do my word funnies, word challenge. So when I say the word, you can just tell me what word or sentence that comes to your mind, and that's pretty much it. So Waldorf.
Waldorf is a great community to live in. A lot of folks try to give it a bad, just like any other place, but I love Waldorf. I love my community.
Okay. Juneteenth.
I am one of the founding individuals who started the Juneteenth committee. So this coming will be our third year. Everyone is welcome. This is not a particular event for African Americans. The whole community is welcome. And you'll see that by the program that we have had and the program that we can put on this year as well.
Okay. Special education.
Near and dear to my heart. I am a special needs student. I graduated with an IEP 504. I think every student should have the opportunity to flourish and do their best.
All right. Sports.
Our sports program, I think, needs to, I'm from the South, you're from Alabama, you understand what I'm saying. It has a long way to go. We had Westlake that won the state championship this year. Last year, I really think Thomas Stone was going to win it. We had North Point win it a couple years ago. But I think from an equity standpoint, we need to do some allocation. You had, we talked about the girls team over at Thomas Stone, but over at McDonough, they finished the season with a total of 17 kids on the football team. It started off with 21.
Okay. Westlake High School.
Westlake is a great school. You had, I think you have a kid or has a kid over there. I have one as well. I think Miss Diane Robson is doing a great job. I think it gets every school has their problems. All schools have their problems, but Westlake is a great institution.
Okay.
I call it the lake.
That's what I call it. Our state delegation.
I think they're doing a great job. I mean, we have some things that we want, but they bought back a lot of money this year. As you know, they just had a presentation today, but the rapid transit that I went to, it's, in politics, nothing is perfect, but I think they're doing a great job.
And the last one, Roll Tide.
Oh, why you do this to me, Derek? My allegiance go to two schools. I'm a graduate. I'm a graduate of the University of Nebraska, but I am a LSU fan as well. I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana, and since you went there, I wasn't going to go there.
I did that. See, whatever you're using, I can't see it. See, because you got, nobody can see that. Nobody can see it.
Just my paper with my college degree for both.
It's that filter. It's that filter you got. That's nobody can see.
It's my paper. It's my paperwork and transcript from two great universities.
All right. Yeah.
Two great institutions.
That. All right,
but,
man.
Every
that hurt my head.
Every child whether they're going to a 2-year university or they're going to get them a trade or 4-year university, should be afforded the same opportunities here in Charles County. I don't care whether they're white, black, blue, green, Protestant, priest, or whatever. But and in closing, if you're looking for status quo, I'm not that individual. I believe that we should do something different.
All right. Well, let me just bring this up one more time. And oops, sorry, let me slide this over here. And if you want to get in contact with Deron Tross, that's his website. Like I tell all candidates that are on here, if there's anything I can do to help you with your platform, you let me know, but it's not an endorsement or anything like that. I just want to educate the voters. And but at the end of the day, it's up to the voter to educate themselves. This is just one way of doing it, but you got to do your homework.
You know, Derek, like I said, we agree sometimes, we agree to disagree. I've come to you with some ideas. I'll send you a text, I think, about something. There's no corporate paradigm in this. We need the community's help on how we do this. You know, with this new makeup of the board, is 9 individuals that you have to, sway. It may be some 5-4 votes, maybe some things that I vote for that didn't go my way. But at the same time, the will of the people go that way. When we come out of the room, we have to be on the same accord. I may not agree with you, but the vote didn't go my way. But I will believe, as I said about telling the folks from the transparency, I'll tell you, I don't believe that it should be any secrets. I think all of our votes should be public.
Yeah, that's the way I look at it, outside of personnel or whatever, but yeah, they should be.
I forgot one thing. The school board salary is a little over $6,000. My pledge, if elected, I will take $1,000 each year and give a scholarship to a student at North Point, because it's in my district, and a student at Westlake.
All right, you heard that, people. Hold them accountable.
My pledge, not only accountable, Charles County Matters over the last 2 years, we have done this.
Now, we don't want to mention no groups.
I'm sorry, but
some of these pages may not let me put it on there. So
I apologize.
But let's say an organization you work with.
Organization I lead, we put our money back into the community. So as I stated, I pledge to give $1,000 of my salary each year, so into another student. I will not be the judge. I will get a committee. They figured out, $500 goes a long way with some books, but that is my pledge.
All right. Well, once again, I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. And I know we had some schedule conflicts, but I'm glad we was able to get it done. And like always, it's a pleasure. I wish you sincerely the best of luck, with the campaign. You're representing my district, as well as I think 4 other candidates where I've only spoken with. Who have I spoken with? 1. That's a good question. You know what?
I'll let you.
2. I'm sorry, 2. I've spoken with you 2. And then there's 3 that, for whatever reason, I haven't spoken with them yet. So can't say I didn't try. But I appreciate it. I appreciate it. And anything I can do, let me know. And until then, I'll see you out there in the campaign trail.
We'll do it. We'll be communicating with you.
All right. All right. Once again, I'd like to thank Deron Tross for being on the show. He's running for Charles County Board of Education District 3. That's my district. So, I hope the interview was informative, but at the end of the day, you have to do your homework, okay? If you live in District 3, and this is just for the Board of Education candidates, you can vote for District 3. If you live in District 1, you have to vote for District 1. So hopefully we'll have a show sometime down the road on how to vote in this particular election, because it can be confusing, especially if it's your first time voting or you just forgot. Who knows? But at any rate, I'm ready to go. Appreciate y'all. Peace and blessings.
Blaze the path.